Wyoming Territory, late summer 1887. The afternoon sun pressed down like a hot hand, painting the prairie in brass and dust. Caleb Rohr stood by a leaning fence post, sleeves rolled high, hammer in hand. The wood was dry and cracked, stubborn like everything else left in his life. He wiped the sweat from his brow, reached for another nail, then froze. Two little girls stood at the edge of his property. Barefoot, dust-covered, dressed in sun-bleached cotton a size too big. One clutched a faded satchel, the other's curls tangled in the wind. They looked at him as if they'd found a ghost. The bolder one took a step forward, chin trembling. "Are you our daddy?" Caleb didn't move. Even the wind went still. His heart thudded once, twice, then roared like hooves in his ears. He set the hammer down and crouched to their level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Oh," the girl whispered. "And that's June. Mama said if anything bad ever happened, we should find the man who smells like wood smoke and rides like thunder. The one from her dreams." The words hit him like a bullet to the chest. Wood smoke and thunder. That's what Annabelle used to call him. He studied their faces, same cheekbones, same tiny furrow when they frowned. Then he saw the locket hanging from Ellie's neck. "May I?" he asked. She nodded. He opened it carefully. Inside, a pressed wildflower and a name written in delicate script, Annabelle. His breath left him. She had died 5 years ago. The fire on the passenger steamer from Missouri. He'd buried what was left. The light of his world turned to ash. Yet here were two small pieces of her, alive and asking if he was their father. He swallowed, voice rough. "You must be tired." June nodded solemnly. Come on," he said softly, pushing open the gate. "Let's get you out of this sun." Inside the cabin, he poured water, found an old tin of shortbread, and watched them eat in silence. They were polite, serious, too quiet for their age. When they finished, he opened a drawer and pulled out a faded photograph. Annabelle's smile still bright despite the years. The girls had her eyes. He sat down. "Where's your mama now?" Ellie looked at her lap. "She got sick. She told us to come here. She said this was home." The words hollowed him. The fire hadn't taken everything. Something had survived. 2 small heartbeats at his table. That evening, he gave them tea and led them to the shaded porch. The girls sipped quietly, watching the sky bleed into gold. Then suddenly they raised 2 fingers to their chest, touched their brows, and pointed toward him. Caleb froze. The gesture, a secret between him and Annabelle. "I carry you in my heart, in my thoughts, and send you all my love. Mama taught us," Ellie said softly. She said if we ever find a man who feels like home, show him this." Caleb pressed a hand over his face, heart trembling. When he lowered it, his voice shook. "What's your mama's name?" "Annabelle," they said together. He nodded slowly, took off his hat. For the first time in 5 years, he let himself feel the ache and wonder of being alive. He drew them close, one on each side. "I'm glad you found me," he said, "and I'll keep you safe." They leaned into him, the prairie wind whispering through the porch rails. And though he didn't say it aloud, the heart he'd buried began to beat again. The next morning dawned soft and bright. Dew sparkled on the grass as Ellie and June chased chickens across the yard, their laughter cutting through the still air. "Easy there," Caleb called. "Wynn won't lay no eggs if you scare her." June giggled. "She's fast." "Faster than you," he teased. By noon, they'd gathered eggs and learned to feed the horse. Caleb saddled his old mare Clover. "Ever been on a horse before?" he asked. Ellie shook her head. June nodded fiercely. "Then up you go." He lifted June into the saddle, mounted behind her, and guided the reins. The mare moved slow and steady toward the ridge. The girls' laughter echoed off the hills. He took them past the river bend, the orchard, the place where Annabelle once picked apples barefoot. And when Ellie turned, smiling in the sun, the sight of her face cracked something deep inside him. Later, while chopping firewood, he heard Ellie cry out. She'd tripped, scraped her knee. He ran, scooped her up, wrapped the wound with a rag from his pocket. "We're not mad?" she asked through tears. Caleb met her gaze, his voice thick. "Never at you, darling." She hugged his neck, small and trembling. June joined in. For a long moment, 3 hearts beat together under the Wyoming sky. That night, after the girls were asleep by the fire, Caleb sat at the window, staring into the dark. If they survived, maybe she did too. The thought burned bright enough to chase away the years of grief. 2 days later, Caleb rode into town. The sheriff looked up as he entered. "Well, I'll be damned. Caleb Rohr, thought you turned to dust out there." "I need your help," Caleb said. "Two girls came to my ranch. Said their mama's name is Annabelle." The sheriff blinked. "You sure?" Blinked. "You sure?" Caleb placed the locket on the desk. Inside was Annabelle's picture. After a long silence, the sheriff pulled a folder from a drawer. A couple years back, Montana Clinic reported a woman found after a fire. Burns, head injury, didn't remember her name. Folks said she just appeared one day. Caleb's pulse pounded. Where? Where? 3 miles west of the old trail. Caleb was already out the door. By dusk the next day, he reached the small ranch nestled between cottonwoods. Smoke curled from the chimney. A woman stepped out onto the porch. Can I help you? I'm looking for someone. Annabelle, her expression shifted. She's inside. Weak from fever. Don't know how long she's got. Inside, the air smelled of lavender and ash. Caleb froze in the doorway. Annabelle lay on a narrow bed, pale, fragile. Her hair was shorter, her eyes distant. Annabelle, he whispered. She stirred, blinked up at him. I know you, he swallowed. Not anymore. Have we met? He nodded. Once a long time ago. The caretaker entered quietly, but she never remembered much. Not until your girls showed up and ran off to find their father. Caleb sat beside the bed. They found me, he said softly, and I found you. He stayed. Days blurred into weeks. He fixed fences, carried water, tended livestock, never asking to remain, just being there. When she looked at him, she felt something stir, a whisper of familiarity she couldn't name. Sometimes she'd catch him tucking her hair behind her ear out of old habit, then freezing mid-gesture, or see him lay her teacup slightly to the left, exactly the way she once liked it. One night, fever took her again. She tossed and cried out, "No, Caleb, no." The fire, he was there in the doorway. She woke trembling. "Why do I know your name?" "Because part of you still remembers," he said. "I see you in my dreams," she whispered. "You're always running toward me." He stepped closer. "You're not late." He stepped closer. "We're not late," he murmured. "You're right here." She broke then, sobbing into his chest, and he held her silent, steady, letting her tears soak into his shirt. In that moment, her lost heart began to find its way back. Weeks later, the fever was gone. Annabelle was stronger, though her memories came only in flashes, smells, sounds, touches. Caleb never forced them. Each evening, he told small stories instead. About a goat she once chased downriver, the time she burned toast and swore it tasted better, the storm she danced through barefoot because the thunder sounded lonely. She would smile, half remembering, half believing. One afternoon, she found a small book behind the bookshelf. A pressed flower inside in handwriting that was hers. On the first page, "When your hands forget, let your heart remember." Her breath caught. "Yes was mine," she whispered as Caleb entered. "Why don't I remember you?" He took her hands gently. "You don't have to. I remember enough for both of us." Tears welled in her eyes. I remember loving you." He drew her close. "That's all I ever needed." A month later, a wagon rolled through the gates of Gentry Ridge. Annabelle sat beside Caleb, blanket over her knees, the girls laughing in the back. When the ranch came into view, Ellie gasped, "Mama, look, it's real." Annabelle smiled softly. "It was always real, sweetheart." When the wagon stopped, the twins leapt down, running into her arms. "We knew we'd come back," June said. Caleb watched them, the sunset turning everything gold. He dreamed of this scene for years, never thinking he'd live it. That night, after supper, when the girls were asleep, he stepped onto the porch holding something behind his back, a simple wooden flute, its surface worn smooth. "I fixed it," he said. "Thought you might want to play." Annabelle took it with trembling hands. Her fingers brushed the initials carved by his knife on their wedding night. She lifted it to her lips. The first note cracked, the second sang. Slowly, the melody grew. The tune she once played after supper when the world was young. Caleb sat beside her, their shoulders touching. When the last note faded, she whispered, "I don't remember everything, but this feels like home." "That's all it has to be," he said. Months passed. The land healed, and so did they. Annabelle moved through the kitchen with color in her cheeks. Caleb taught them to ride, patient and kind. When they fell, he simply said, "Try again." Caleb just smiled. Figured folks should know whose ranch this really is. That night, Ellie crept up to him with a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you," she said. Inside, in crooked crayon letters, "Thank you for not forgetting her, and for not forgetting us." Caleb blinked hard, scooped both girls into his arms, and turned toward Annabelle standing in the doorway. Her smile was soft, steady. "They told me you died," he said. She brushed a curl from his brow, voice trembling. "No, love, I was just lost. You found me. If this story made your heart ache, smile, or hold your breath, then it did what it was meant to do. Because love like Caleb and Annabelle's isn't born just under wedding skies. It's forged in fire, tested by time, and stitched back together by small, determined hands. It's about the man who waited, the woman who found her way home, and the two little girls who believed in love enough to make it real. Out here under open skies and quiet stars, love rides again. And we're just getting started.